My billionaire ex is back, and he knows I'm queen now. Part 3. Chapter 13, Ava Goes Rogue. The day began like any other. Ceremonial breakfast. Paparazzi outside the palace gates. A short meeting with the Royal Health Foundation. Polite smiles. Careful nods. Ava played her role like an actress who knew every cue by heart. But beneath the surface, she was already gone. She left through the back gates at 3:14 p.m., disguised as an aide named Samira, a fabricated identity the palace used for internal event coordination. Fatima didn't approve. Kian didn't even know. Ava had told no one where she was going. Because this wasn't a mission the Queen could carry out. This was Ava Garcia, Vegas girl, digital hacker, once broke rebel, taking her power back. And to do it, she had to disappear. Destination, Dubai. It was the one city in the world glitzy enough to camouflage royalty, and discreet enough to conduct espionage in plain sight. Everyone had a secret in Dubai. And everyone assumed yours cost more than theirs. She flew private, using a ghost manifest created by a trusted contact from her freelance days. No guards. No entourage. Just one black suitcase and a steel trap plan. Her target. The International Future Tech Expo. The most elite tech gathering in the Middle East. And Jackson Dane. Headlining keynote speaker. With a side booth hosted by MXR Global, the mysterious RE-linked firm from the USB files. If the surveillance breaches and data trails were connected to a larger network, Ava knew this was the place to find the source. And she wouldn't be asking nicely. By 7:42 p.m., she stood in the lobby of the Burj Arena Hotel. And no one recognized her. Because Ava was gone. In her place stood a woman the internet would weep over. Black wig. Sculpted cheekbones. Dark lipstick. A scarlet red gown that hugged her curves like scandal. She was a stranger in her own skin. And she looked magnificent. Ava strutted through the polished marble floors with the ease of a billionaire heiress, her stilettos snapping with menace. She flashed her forged press badge, Amira D. Nassar, International Tech Review, and security didn't blink. She was inside. The expo buzzed like a hive of polished snakes. Luxury AI displays. Robots that served cocktails. Holowalls that changed languages mid-sentence. Every table had a billionaire. Every booth had a secret. And at the center of it all, Jackson. Standing on stage, microphone in hand, confidence oozing from every line of his black tailored suit. He talked about predictive architecture, sovereign encryption, and the ethics of privacy. Ava nearly laughed. Ethics. From him. He didn't see her, yet. But that was the point. Because she wasn't here to say hello. She was here to break in. She scanned the floor. Security cameras in corners. Conference reps in heels and earpieces. She slipped past a velvet rope and into the exhibitor's hallway using the badge she'd swiped earlier from a drunk Finnish investor in the lobby bar. Down the hallway. Third door on the right. MXR Global. Sealed suite. No visible keypad. She knelt in front of it. Took out a lipstick tube. Unscrewed the bottom. Inside was a custom crypto key extractor, the kind she used to sell under the table in her hacker days. She pressed it to the panel. Waited. 1 click. 2. Access granted. She slipped inside. The room was dark. Cold. Gleaming with glass and mirrored metal. On the far end, a wall of screens showed real-time interface dashboards. And at the center, a server hub labeled Sphinx Node Alpha. She moved fast, opened her clutch, pulled out a microdrive preload with a trace algorithm, plugged it in, and waited. The screen began to flicker. Downloading access map. Decrypting routing protocols. Source, Royal Palace, Al-Razi. Destination, MXR Shadow Node, unknown server. Ava froze. It was worse than she thought. Not only had Palace data been siphoned, it was being duplicated and rerouted to an unknown source. Which meant the enemy wasn't just watching. They were archiving. Building something. Weaponizing it. She ripped the drive free just as a noise came from behind the server rack. Footsteps. Voices. Security. She tucked the drive back into her clutch, straightened her gown, and slid out through the side service door, barely missing a guard in a navy suit. Her heart thundered. But her eyes were calm. Because she had what she needed. And now, she was going to burn it down. Back in her hotel suite, Ava peeled off her disguise and stood in front of the mirror. Makeup smeared. Wig tossed aside. And underneath it all was still her. Stronger. Sharper. Queen not by blood, but by will. She opened her phone and texted Fatima. I know who's behind it. I'm coming home. And she smiled. Because for the first time in days, she wasn't afraid. She was armed. And whoever thought they could steal from Ava Garcia was about to regret it. Chapter 14, Glamour and Espionage. If revenge had a dress code, Ava Garcia had just rewritten it. She stood in front of her hotel suite mirror in Dubai, the skyline glittering behind her, the Burj Khalifa towering like a needle of light. Her gown was molten red. A backless, body-hugging masterpiece of silk and sin, cut so dangerously high it whispered threats every time she moved. A slit traced her thigh like a secret. Her hair was curled into glossy, old Hollywood waves. Her lipstick matched the color of vengeance. This wasn't a disguise anymore. This was war paint. The Future Tech Expo's Black Gala wasn't just a party, it was the event of the year in international tech politics. Billionaires, ministers, startup prodigies, and oil tycoons all under one chandelier-crusted dome. The kind of place where fortunes were made, companies were bought in whispers, and secrets were sealed with Dom Perignon. And tonight, Queen Ava of Al-Razi was about to crash it. Uninvited. Unannounced. Unforgiving. The crowd outside the gala pulsed with camera flashes. No one expected royalty, least of all her. She walked up the black carpet like she'd been born to do it, eyes forward, heels slicing through the silence like a declaration. The second the press caught sight of her, chaos erupted. Ava Garcia. Queen Ava. Is that you? What are you doing in Dubai? Where's the king? Are you still together? What about Jackson Dane? She didn't stop. Didn't flinch. Just gave the cameras a single, slow, devastating smile. The kind that launched scandals. And sank empires. Inside, the gala glittered like sin. Ava swept past the security gate using the stolen VIP chip from the MXR badge, slipped into her clutch beside her lipstick, burner phone, and digital scrambler. A string quartet played a moody techno remix of Beethoven's Fifth under a rain of crystal lights. Glasses of champagne shimmered on silver trays. And across the ballroom, Jackson saw her. He was standing by the central bar, mid-conversation with a Saudi robotics developer and a woman in a sheer gown of gold chains. His expression shifted the instant he spotted her. It wasn't just surprise. It was hunger. Memory. Panic. Ava let him look. Let him watch. She wasn't here to flirt. She was here to steal. 10 minutes in, she'd already made a splash. The headlines were tweeting themselves in real time. Breaking, Queen Ava appears at Dubai Gala in jaw-dropping red gown, alone. Is the royal marriage in trouble? Palace hasn't commented. Exclusive, Ava Garcia seen near Dane Network booth at Expo. What is she really doing in Dubai? Exactly as she planned. The public chaos gave her cover. No one noticed when she slipped down the marble corridor of the ballroom. No one noticed when she pressed her VIP chip into the discreet scanner behind the MXR panel booth. And no one noticed when the door slid open into a restricted room full of encrypted access terminals. Except Jackson. Because Jackson had followed her. She heard the door click behind her. Didn't turn. You should have left this alone, he said. I'm not really into ignoring treason, she replied coolly. You have no idea what you're about to uncover. She spun, stepping into his space, eyes blazing. Try me. For a beat, neither spoke. Just static between them. Old fire, new fury. Then Jackson said, you shouldn't be here. You made me come here, Ava said. You turned my life into a weapon. And now I'm going to dismantle the entire game board. She stepped to the central terminal, inserted the duplicate key drive she'd cloned last night, and began scanning. The room buzzed with code. Screens flickered. Ava's fingers moved fast, opening file after file, navigating the internal routing logs from MXR Global. Her heart dropped. *** target nodes. Ava Garcia. Princess Lila bint Kian. Fatima Al Saud. Sheikh Kian of Al Razi. Crown Council Secure Line. Royal Archive Vault ***. This wasn't just data collection. This was surveillance warfare. Who is MXR? She asked, her voice sharp, urgent. Jackson hesitated. You think it's me, he said. But it's not. Then who? She demanded. His jaw clenched. He walked to the far terminal, typed a single override command, and pulled up a file Ava hadn't seen before. MXR owner record. Primary shareholder, Shahid Yilmaz. Known alias, the architect. Affiliation, Black Valley Technologies, decommissioned AI defense contractor. Status, international arms dealer, disavowed. Target motivation, retaliation against the Al Razi monarchy. Operation code, Dagger Seed. Ava felt the blood drain from her face. Why is my name on this list? She whispered. Jackson looked at her. Because now the flirtation was gone. The arrogance too. This was something else. Regret. I think they need you, he said. You're not the target, Ava. You're the key. Sirens blared outside. Security breach. Ava ripped the drive free, tucked it into her clutch, and turned to run. You're going back to Al Razi, Jackson said behind her. She paused at the door. I never left. Then she was gone. And hours later, after sneaking past guards, diving into a black SUV, and driving across the desert like a queen on fire, Ava stood on the tarmac of a private jet, hair whipping in the wind, dress torn slightly at the hem, heart pounding. In her clutch. Proof of everything. A global threat. A palace betrayal. A future hanging by a thread. And a kiss that meant nothing, except maybe it still meant something. She buckled herself in, stared out the window, and whispered, "Let's go home." Chapter 15. The kiss was a setup. The photo went viral before her jet even touched the ground. It hit the tabloids at 3:17 a.m. local time, a grainy shot taken at a deadly angle, perfectly timed to ruin lives and ignite hashtags. Ava Garcia, Queen of Alrazi, locked in a kiss with Jackson Dane. Red dress. Red lips. Red hot scandal. Royal affair. Queen of chaos. Jax and Ava back. Where is the king? By the time Ava's plane crossed the Alrazi border, the palace had already issued a carefully worded no comment. Too slow. Too vague. The world had already made up its mind. Back inside the palace gates, chaos had detonated like a landmine. Staff scurried. Security doubled. Journalists camped at every entrance. In the royal council chambers, 3 advisors tried to convince Kian to issue a temporary separation announcement to preserve political optics. He didn't speak to any of them. He just stared at the photo on his phone. Not because he believed it, but because she hadn't told him. Ava returned at 6:43 a.m. Straight from the runway to the royal residence, hair still pinned from the gala, heels still smeared with desert dust. Her red dress hung from her like battle scars. The clutch still held the USB drive that could bring a government to its knees. But all anyone cared about was the kiss. Fatima met her inside the entrance. Her face was unreadable. "We've locked down the media access," she said crisply. "Lila hasn't seen anything. I've had her with the tutors since dawn." "Good," Ava replied, hoarse. "Where is he?" "Waiting in the atrium. He hasn't spoken to anyone since the image leaked. He refused counsel." Ava drew a breath. Her heels echoed down the hallway. And then she saw him. Kian. Standing in his military-style black robe, belt loosely tied, hair slightly mussed like he hadn't slept. Not fury. Not indifference. Worse. Disappointment. "I was going to tell you," Ava began. He didn't move. Before the image broke, she continued, trying to keep her voice steady. "Before the narrative got hijacked. It was part of the plan. A distraction." "You kissed him," Kian said. "No," Ava snapped. "I kissed a surveillance system. I kissed leverage. I kissed an opportunity to steal a security badge and infiltrate MXR's database. And I got everything." He looked at her. "No one else sees that, Ava." "They will." He stepped closer. His voice dropped. "You went into enemy territory. Alone. You put yourself, our child, at risk. And then you kissed the man who threatened to destroy us." Ava bristled. "To save us. You should have told me." She turned away, chest heaving. "If I had, you would have stopped me." "You're damn right I would have." Silence. Then he stepped forward. "Softer now." "But that's not the point." She looked back, eyes blazing. "Then what is the point?" He met her gaze. "The point is that you didn't trust me enough to let me protect you." That landed like a blow. Because it was true. And it hurt more than rage ever could. They stood in the middle of the royal atrium, under the stained glass dome. Light filtered through in fractured rainbows. a moment frozen in time. Ava finally said, "I trusted myself. That had to be enough." Kian exhaled, slow and shaky. "And now?" She opened her hand. Revealed the USB. "Now I trust you with everything I found. Including this." He took it gently, but his eyes never left hers. "We'll go through it together. No more secrets," she whispered. "No more solo missions," he replied. That afternoon, the official palace press secretary released a statement. The Queen's appearance at the Dubai Gala was part of a covert investigation into international threats facing al-Razi. Any imagery taken out of context will be addressed legally. The King and Queen remain united, steadfast, and unbreakable. The internet didn't know what to believe. But one image began to circulate shortly after. A new one. Taken that same afternoon. Ava and Kian on the royal terrace. Holding hands. Lila between them. And this time, there was no kiss. Just strength. And unity. And the look in Ava's eyes that said, she wasn't playing defense anymore. Chapter 16, Kian finds out. The palace felt colder that night. Not physically. The marble floors still radiated warmth from the desert sun, and the velvet drapes still hung thick over the windows like silent guardians. But emotionally, something had shifted. It was as if every chandelier had dimmed just slightly. As if every portrait of old kings on the walls was watching, waiting. Because the king of al-Razi was angry. And he was about to break. The USB drive sat on the center table in the king's private quarters. A sleek little weapon disguised as metal and plastic. Ava stood by the window, her back straight, arms folded across her chest like armor. She wasn't scared. But she was bracing. Across the room, Kian paced slowly. Controlled. Royal. Terrifying. He'd watched the footage. All of it. The access logs. The intercepted messages. The live security feeds that had been tracking his family in real time. And the voice clips, that cold-blooded, calculated betrayal from Yusuf. But he'd also seen something else. The full surveillance video. Ava. In Dubai. In the red dress. Kissing Jackson. And not once. Twice. Once in the server room. And once on the gala floor, when she knew the camera was rolling. He hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. And when he finally did, his voice was a razor across silk. You kissed him again. Ava didn't move. I told you. It was part of the plan. You kissed him again. His eyes were darker than she'd ever seen them. Not rage. Not jealousy. Something colder. I had to distract him, Ava said calmly, trying not to shake. I needed access to his chip. He never would have handed it over willingly. I took it in the moment. That's it. You didn't tell me you were going to touch him. Would you have let me go if I had? Kian's mouth twitched, his jaw clenching. No, he said. Because I wouldn't send my wife into the arms of a man who's already tried to destroy her once. It was the only way. He turned to her, the fury cracking just slightly beneath the surface. Why didn't you trust me to help you? I trusted you to love me, Ava snapped, stepping forward. But love doesn't always mean permission. I made a call. I did what I had to do. Then what am I here for? He growled. What am I to you, Ava? A trophy husband. A ceremonial crown. Someone to wave beside while you run off to kiss the enemy. That's not fair. He stepped closer. No. What's not fair is that I've spent the last year building a kingdom around you, protecting you, elevating you, giving you everything, and you still think you're the only one who can fix things. Ava's heart raced. Because I was the only one. You didn't see the breach, Kian. You didn't see the messages. You didn't know what they were doing to Lila. I had to be faster than protocol. Faster than palace chains. He stared at her. Then, softly, you didn't even tell me you were scared. She blinked. And for the first time, she wavered. Because that was the truth. Not the USB. Not the kiss. But the fear. The deep, gnawing fear that if she told him everything, the doubts, the memories, the lingering guilt from Jackson, he wouldn't look at her the same way. Because how could a queen be afraid? How could a mother falter? How could a wife not remember what really happened in Vegas? I didn't want you to see me weak, she whispered. Kian's voice cracked. I've only ever wanted to see you real. He turned away, shoulders slumped now, not from anger but from exhaustion. And heartbreak. I watched you kiss him, he said. And I knew it wasn't love. I knew it was strategy. But it still broke something. Ava swallowed hard. We can fix it. He faced her again. And finally said the words he'd never said before. I can't lose you again. Her breath hitched. He stepped forward. Voice lower now. Raw. Not to Jackson. Not to secrets. Not to your ghosts. You're not alone in this, Ava. Stop trying to carry it all like you're still that girl who had nothing. She stared at him. And something inside her broke, but beautifully. Because it wasn't a shatter. It was a release. Of the weight. The walls. The shame. Tears rose to her eyes before she could stop them. She stepped into him. Pressed her forehead to his chest. And whispered, then don't let go. He wrapped his arms around her like a man clinging to the only thing that mattered. I won't, he said. They stood there, in silence. Wrapped in everything unspoken. And finally, together again. Later that night, after Lila had gone to bed, after the palace had gone quiet, Ava and Kian sat side by side at the royal war table. USB drive in front of them. Proof of surveillance. Proof of betrayal. But also, proof of a larger enemy. Because now they knew. It was never just Jackson. It was the architect. And Ava. She wasn't just a queen anymore. She was the key to a war they hadn't seen coming. Chapter 17, The Secret Code. The palace war room was never meant to feel intimate. Everything about it was designed for intimidation: obsidian marble floors, a 10-meter table of cold carved stone, and screens that could display satellite views of any part of the world. It was where kings waged digital wars and decided the fate of trade routes, alliances, even nations. And tonight, it felt small. Too small for the weight of what Ava and Kian were about to uncover. The room was sealed. 2 guards stationed outside. Fatima at her usual post, face pale but locked into command mode. The USB drive, now duplicated and quarantined on an air-gapped palace terminal, waited on the desk like a silent weapon. Ava leaned over the interface, eyes scanning a sea of code. Her fingers moved fast, swiping, decrypting, translating. It had taken her years to forget this feeling. The rush of the hack. The precision of the breach. That excruciating thrill of knowing something you weren't supposed to know. She was in again. Not just the palace systems. Into the bones of them. Kian stood behind her, arms folded, tense. This is the second security shell. No, Ava murmured, eyes locked on the monitor. This is the one beneath that. The layer Jackson said didn't exist. Fatima frowned. MXR embedded a shadow system inside your custom Dane protocol. Not quite, Ava said. They used the palace's own encryption framework, then rewrote it from the inside. She tapped a command. A line of green text blinked to life. Dagger Seed, Activation Protocol Sequence 04-93B/priority, Target Ava and Subject Lila. Kian froze. His voice dropped. Subject. Lila. Ava's blood ran cold. She double-clicked the file. A blueprint of the palace exploded across the screen, real-time sensors, audio triggers, heat mapping, all centered not on the royal quarters, not on Kian's command wing, but on Lila's nursery. The feed zoomed in. Ava's breath caught. There was a blinking dot labeled Subject Active over her daughter's crib. And just beside it, a pulsing red node marked Priority 1, DNA Trace Match. Kian leaned forward. What does that mean? Ava's voice was barely audible. They weren't just watching her. They were tracking her biologically. Fatima's face went pale. They coded a live DNA match trigger into your child's room. They were waiting for something, Ava whispered. Not just audio. Not video. Genetic confirmation. Kian's hand slammed against the edge of the table. What could they possibly want with our child's DNA? No one answered. Because the horror was writing itself. Ava dug deeper. Subfile after subfile. Until she found it. A log of past access dates. Every time the system had registered activity in the priority target zone. The list was long. Disturbingly long. And the timestamps didn't lie. They went back months. Including. Ava gasped. 2 days after Lila was born. The palace had been sealed. Closed to press. Guests had been banned. And still. Someone had gotten inside the system. I was recovering from surgery, Ava whispered, almost to herself. I was unconscious half the time. Kian stepped beside her. I was with you. Day and night. You weren't in the nursery, Fatima said slowly. Kian looked at her. What are you saying? Ava's voice broke. They didn't need to be in the room. They were in the walls. In the system. Feeding her data from the biometric monitors. The formula readings. Her heartbeat. It was no longer surveillance. It was profiling. Targeting. Grooming something. Or someone. They sat in stunned silence. The room pulsing with tech and tension and trauma. Then Ava whispered. They're not just after me. They want her. She's the leverage. Kian looked at the screen. His face didn't show panic. Just focus. The kind of ruthless clarity that had made him a prince no one could buy, and a king no one could shake. We shut it down, he said. Every feed. Every sensor. Every trace of this operation. No, Ava said sharply. Both men turned to her. She was already typing. We keep it open. What? Fatima snapped. Not forever, Ava said. Just long enough for them to think we haven't seen it. If we trigger a purge now, they'll vanish. But if we keep the ghost system running, they'll keep using it. Kian's eyes narrowed. You want to use the surveillance to trap them? Ava nodded once. I want them to think they're still in control. Then I want to take that control and burn it. The war room went silent again. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was strategy. It was rage with direction. And it was about more than vengeance now. It was about protection. Because this time, Ava wasn't just defending a crown. She was defending her child. And someone had made a critical mistake. They thought they were watching her. But they'd forgotten. Queen's Watch Back. Chapter 18, The Real Enemy. The palace felt like it was holding its breath. The corridors, normally echoing with the soft steps of attendants and advisors, were silent. Tense. As if the very walls had heard the name whispered through the war room that night. The architect. It wasn't Jackson. He was just the shadow. Someone else cast it. At 3:12 a.m., Ava stood at the center of the Royal Intelligence Archive, deep beneath the palace, behind biometric doors only she and Kian could open. Fatima sat beside her, surrounded by an ocean of screens. Kian paced in a tight, silent circle behind them, his face unreadable. Every file they had, national intel, global watch lists, financial crimes databases, had been pooled into one place. All to trace a name that wasn't even real. Alias, the architect. Status, unknown. Class, red level threat. Suspected affiliation, Black Valley Technologies. Former clearance, NATO classified, revoked. Last confirmed alias, Shahid Yilmaz. Specialty, predictive warfare systems, AI-based population disruption models. Known motive, vendetta against Al-Razi sovereign house. Fatima whispered the words as they loaded on screen. Population disruption models. They design civil collapse, Ava murmured. Not tech. Tactics. Kian narrowed his eyes. Why Al-Razi? The answer came in one word, from a document Ava had found hidden in the metadata of the MXR logs. Dagger seed. Ava opened the classified briefing Fatima had decrypted earlier. A set of heavily redacted military transcripts flashed across the screen. 10 years ago. Joint AI initiative between Black Valley Technologies and Al-Razi's Sovereign Intelligence Forces fails. The royal house withdraws funding after discovering the AI was learning to bypass ethical overrides. The program, Project Dagger Seed, was destroyed. Its lead architect, Shahid Yilmaz, disappeared. 2 months later, the head of Royal Cyber Operations was found dead. No one connected the dots. Until now. Ava stood frozen as the pieces fell into place. This wasn't about spying, she said. It was about revenge. Fatima added, Shahid Yilmaz built an AI powerful enough to rewrite its own mission parameters. He pitched it as defensive. But it wasn't. It was predictive, Ava whispered. It was learning how to take down a nation. Al-Razi was its first sandbox, Kian said darkly. We shut it down. And now? Fatima asked. Ava answered without hesitation. Now it's back. Rebuilt. Leaked into our systems. And this time, it doesn't want our secrets. It wants our daughter. Kian's face hardened into something lethal. She's only 4 years old. She's also my child, Ava said. Which means she's 50% unpredictable, stubborn, and completely irresistible. And apparently, a high-value data point. Fatima glanced at them both. They don't need her physically, not yet. What they need is access. Her behaviors. Her genetics. The way she's being raised. They're feeding her patterns into the AI. Why? Kian asked. To build a profile. To test something Ava said. Or someone. She opened a new tab. Scanned another layer of encrypted files on the USB Jackson had given her. There, buried in a folder marked MXR Beta Testing, was a subfolder labeled Genetic Vectors, Ava 001/Lila 001. Ava opened it with shaking fingers. What loaded was not just data. It was a model. A holographic simulation of Lila, her speech patterns, biometric responses, facial reactions, being fed into an AI training loop. The program responded to her like a mother would. God, Ava whispered. They're training it. Using her as the model. Fatima backed away, stunned. They're using your daughter's identity to build synthetic emotional algorithms. Kian stared at the screen. That's not technology. No, Ava said softly. That's warfare. Kian looked at her. And Jackson knew. He said he was being watched, too. That he didn't know the full scope. But his company was the delivery system. He built the platforms the architect piggybacked. Which means we're still just chasing shadows. Not anymore. Ava's voice was calm now. Sharp. She leaned forward, clicked open the terminal, and began uploading the AI training model into a sandbox environment, a digital trap, rigged to trace any inbound connection. They think they're feeding the algorithm, she said. They don't realize we're watching them. Fatima smiled grimly. Queen checkmating the Ghost King. Ava's eyes narrowed. Not checkmate yet. But soon. Later that night, long after the data had been secured, and the fake nursery feed had been reprogrammed to emit false readings, Ava stood on the royal balcony, staring out into the dark. Kian joined her, silent. They didn't speak for a while. The city glimmered below like a dream. Do you believe him? Kian finally asked. Jackson. Kian nodded. Ava hesitated. I believe he didn't know what he was part of, she said. But I also believe he didn't care enough to stop it. Kian's jaw clenched. And Yilmaz, he asked. What happens when we find him? Ava's voice was low. Lethal. We don't arrest him. Kian looked at her, surprised. We raise him.
Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and wild theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and steamy romance, the next story is always one scandal away.